So in this video, I would like to discuss my thoughts on the upcoming Genshin Impact patch, as well as things leading up to Sumeru and details we know about Sumeru so far. But before that, a little disclaimer. Most of this is speculation on my part, so I could be wrong, and we'll see when the patch hits. There will also be possible spoilers, but I am speculating, so. The first thing I thought about is why Kuki Shinobu is with the travelers in the story quest. And then I remember in Yanfei's voice line that she was supposed to graduate, but then she went back to Inazuma, and then Inazuma went on lockdown because of the Sakuko degree. And now that we've fixed things in Inazuma, the Sakuko degree has been lifted, and now people can freely go in and out of Inazuma, so that's probably why she's coming back to Liyue to graduate from law school. She's a lawyer. So that's why she's in the story mode, and also Ito is probably there to accompany her. There's also an upcoming event about mud. More mud lore incoming. The mud is related to the Celestial Nail, so we'll find out more about that and why the Celestial Nail. Is it collecting the mud? Is it absorbing the mud? Did it cause the mud? Etc, etc. As for the actual story quest that will be given, the domain that the travelers and Ko go into seems to be showing some sort of dream or illusion from your past. So for example, we see that a green-haired girl is there, which is most likely Shinobu's mother, and we might know why she decided to pursue law and stuff like that. We also see Xiao facing some illusions. They're probably the Yaksha, right? And we see the Abyss sibling there. So these are all probably just illusions from our past. In the current patch, there's a world quest in the chasm where there's this miner who's been staring at one of the pieces of the Celestial Nail, and then he says he's looking for his daughter or his daughter's doll. And then you go looking for the doll, and you see a girl who claims to be that man's daughter, but then you finish the quest, and then you go back to the surface, and then you talk to the miner, and he says, "Oh, my daughter is all grown up, and she has a job back in Liyue in like the Ministry of Civil Affairs or something." But the creepy girl is still there watching her from the background. So it might be something like that, where they're like ghosts or illusions from the past, and they're showing you something that you want to see or something like that. The evil voice we hear at the end of the trailer is most likely Xiao's former master, the god who forced Xiao to kill people and eat their dreams, and who Zhongli rescued Xiao from. That's why Xiao is so devoted to Zhongli. And lastly, about the upcoming story is we see some sort of like time travel shenanigans. We see like a big compass, and it's like spinning around, and like time passes weirdly. So we might go back in time, or maybe we show some stuff in the past, and probably show stuff 500 years ago, which was the time of the calamity, the Khaenri'ah calamity, and what happened in the chasm. So now let's get into the new characters, Yelan and Kuki Shinobu. A brief summary of what my thoughts on them before I go into Sasuke leaks. I think Yelan is like a Xingqiu, but more damage, less utility. And unfortunately, Shinobu will probably be bad because MiHoYo hates defensive characters, and she's a healer. They always make defensive characters really underpowered for some reason. So now I'll discuss a little bit of leaks. Jump ahead if you don't want to hear. For Yelan, it looks like she's a pure HP scaling, so most typical bows will be bad on her. There's also concerns about her ER requirements being like 200 plus. So there's also some considerations that it might just be better to run her with a second Hydro unit, which is most likely Xingqiu, to help with her energy, so they both batter each other. So because of her HP scaling, she doesn't really care about the base attack of her weapon. So it's all about the secondary stat, and she cares about ER and HP. So her weapon choices are, for the 4 stars, there is Sack Bow and Fav Bow. These are probably going to be her top choices when it comes to 4-star bows. There's also the upcoming event bow, Fading Twilight, which is an ER bow. Funnily enough, there is also the 3-star Recurve Bow, which is the only bow with an HP secondary stat. I think this is an okay option, but again, it doesn't help her ER, so you still want Sack or Fab Bow, I think. As for 5-star options, there is of course her signature weapon, the Aqua Simulacra. It will probably be good on her because it's gonna be made for her. Finally, there is LG of the End, which is an ER bow, and it also has a really good team buff. The other 5-star bows, while they are generally good for other bow users, again, for Yelan, she doesn't really care about high base attack, which some of the bows have. And while they do have crit, which she does want, they don't fix her ER issues, and they don't provide her with HP. So they might not be as good for her. So Yelan is kind of in a weird spot. Hydro is really important for a lot of teams, but a lot of teams don't really want to run 2 Hydro. And if she's gonna have extreme ER problems and will need a second Hydro to sort of batter each other, that might limit her team building. And unfortunately right now, there's already a lot of second Hydro units for your second team. So she's in a weird spot. She'll still probably still be good because she's Hydro and she does decent damage. Moving on to Shinobu. As I said, I don't have high expectations for Shinobu. They didn't show the particle generation on her elemental skill, which is a bit concerning. The leaks I saw were it's around 40 or 50%, and there are around 10 ticks in a 12-second duration, which is around like 4 or 5, I believe. 4 or 5 particles within the cast. So 4 to 5 particles within the rotation, which is, I believe, below average. It's around, I think, Yai Miko levels of particle generation, although Yai Miko might have better uptime. So I think Shinobu will have a hard time finding a place in a team because she just doesn't bring that much to the table. Her burst looks like an Amber Burst, which made me think that, oh, she's a good elegy user if Elegy of the End was a sword. And also another one with some very minor EM scaling. I don't think it's significant. It's a nice bonus. Maybe it's something to do with Dendro, although the Dendro leaks I've seen, they don't really point towards that. But I think the Dendro leaks are like incomplete. I think they're still working on it. So things that I expect to happen before Sumeru is the last dangling plot thread in Inazuma, which is Scaramouche, and I believe they're setting up a confrontation between Scaramouche and Kazuha. That is what the Iridori Festival was setting up to, and also why Kazuha didn't have a rerun, because I believe that's the patch where Kazuha will have a rerun. Oh, and this is speculation on my part, a little copium. Well, not really. I don't want this guy. It's possible that they will rerun Tartaglia here because Child is looking for Scaramouche. So it's possible that we'll get yet another child rerun. But yeah, I think Kazuha will be on the next patch because of this. Or whenever the patch where we get to fight Scaramouche is. Kazuha started the Inazuma storyline, and now he's gonna end it. After that, I believe we will have to have some sort of transition / intro to Sumeru, and they need to introduce the Dendro element to us. And I believe Collei, who is from the manga, is a likely candidate to introduce us to Sumeru because she has relationships with Amber and the Knights of Favonius, as well as Totore, who was also in the manga, will probably be the main Fatui antagonist in Sumeru because that's his base of operations. As for Sumeru itself, it's sort of this weird blend of rainforest but also desert, which is kind of, those are two weird environments but in one region. We also see some mushrooms, like there's a giant one in the chasm, and it talks and it says it's from Sumeru. So that's interesting. There's also, I believe I've heard lore people speak that there's a lot of Persian influence, so like Middle Eastern Persian influence. So that'll be interesting to see. Also, the last thing I would expect in Sumeru is Lisa, the Sumeru Academia, and Lisa is from the Academia. So Lisa will be relevant, maybe, in this story. And also the Hexen Circle, which is the group of witches where Klee's mom and Mona's master is from. So those are the things that I think will most likely happen. There's also a couple of hints of Fontaine already. For example, there is an event that's coming up, like the little robot event, which we already have NPCs from Fontaine doing some sort of like technologically steampunk stuff. So steampunk theme is what I'm expecting from Fontaine. It seems to be more advanced than the regions that we've already been, like Liyue and Inazuma. But Shiznaya also is very technologically advanced, so we'll see. In the bartending event, Zhongli mentions Shaoying village. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that correctly. It's a village in northwest of Liyue that borders Fontaine, which is known for having good tea, or tea leaves, I think, something like that. So we know where Fontaine is geographically. Fontaine is northwest of Liyue, and Sumeru is southwest of Liyue. That's where the chasm is. Lastly, I noticed this just randomly. I was fighting the Oceanid, and I remember that the Oceanid is from Fontaine, and that the Oceanid is some sort of spirit or a minor god that escaped from Fontaine and is now in Liyue. And that makes me think, with the whole steampunk thing, that maybe there's some sort of pollution problem, or maybe there's some sort of pollution, or there's a lot of like mud and dirt, and what was the one they called in Inazuma? Like there's a lot of like corrupted environment in Genshin, in the previous region. So I think it's possible that Fontaine has some sort of corrupted water. It's weird. Lastly, it's probably not gonna happen anytime soon, but I would really like to see Ludi Harpastum, which is the festival in Mondstadt, or at least it's the only festival in Mondstadt that we know of. It's believed to be something like the Oktoberfest from Germany. So Inazuma had a festival, and Liyue had two festivals, the Moon Chase. So I would like to see Mondstadt get one. And those are my thoughts on the upcoming content for Genshin. Hope you enjoyed it.